going, it is all the news all the time. Yes, it is. My name is Adam. Yeah, and we're looking at some interesting news today coming from the Mail Online, and it's talking about Johnny Depp's court case and Amber Heard's lawyer in the UK trial. She's put forth this article, and her name is Jennifer Robinson, and I thought we'd read through this craziness, and it looks like copium, trying to cope with stuff, and I think it's a claim or a sort of desperate attempt to try and follow Camille Vasquez. Check the outfit, check the sunglasses, check the bag, check the celebrity photo op. She's desperate for that partnership to be offered to her, and that place on The View, that seat on the View as a legal expert. Anyway, let's have a little look. Never again, she says, should women like Amber Heard be silenced by a legal system that dismisses them as liars and gold diggers. A devastating critique by the actress's lawyer in the wake of her battle with Johnny Depp. Right, okay, so what's she saying? She's saying liar. This word was shouted over and over as our car pulled into the side entrance of the Royal Courts of Justice in London. The crowd of Johnny Depp fans pushed up against the vehicle, jostling for a glimpse of his ex-wife, AH, through the window. It was the opening morning of what was billed as the Libel trial of the century. Depp was suing the Sun newspaper for defamation for calling him a wife-beater. He claimed Amber had lied about the DV she said she had suffered during their relationship. As a human rights barrister, I was representing AH as she gave evidence in support of the newspaper's case. So she's giving evidence in support of the Sun newspaper. Okay. We could hear the crowd before we could see them, bellowing, yelling, booing. So it's a method of characterising the crowd as animalistic and below intelligence, I think there. Among them were grown men. This is reducing by absurdity. Among them were grown men dressed as Johnny Depp, or at least as his screen characters, Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands. They'd taken up his cause as if it were their own. They held up hand-drawn placards. Men too, gold digger, Amber lies, AH the abuser. Indeed so. Indeed so. And we know these people. This is her claim to fame and fortune. It didn't go as well though, did it? In Johnny Depp, it was as if they saw the victim of a cancel culture supposedly obsessed with bringing white masculinity down. Really? Is that what we saw? Or did we not see outrageous behaviour from this woman? But okay, it's your bias. So it's the victim of cancel culture supposedly obsessed with bringing white masculinity down. Right, of course it is. He was not just someone suing in a costly defamation proceeding with a huge legal team and a PR campaign of the kind very few people can afford. He's not just that. He is that. He is in a very expensive defamation proceeding, but he's doing it for a purpose, and he's spending money on purpose because the claims made by this woman could not be allowed to stand. So he had to. The actor was had somehow become an everyman, unfairly accused, indeed, and subject to the same witch hunt that had seen the demise of every guy who had made an off-colour office joke since Me Too. No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with people making off-colour jokes. That's not what she accused him of at all. No. So try and stick to the same topic, please. Every man who had been sacked from coming on to their junior women at work or making now inappropriate comments. No, it's got nothing to do with that either. They saw their own ex-wives in custody battles and the child support they'd been forced to pay. If they do see that, perhaps women could take a little look at themselves and ask themselves, is this how men see women? It's not good if that's how they're seen. But anyway, this isn't about that. This is about her claims and how to deal with them. Maybe they sympathised with Depp when they learned he had sent a message to Elton John calling his ex-wife and mother of his children, Vanessa Paradis, a French extortionist. See you next Tuesday. Now, people do get annoyed and do say stuff. I think I've said stuff. I think you've said stuff, have you not, before about your ex-partners? Have you ever called your ex-partner something? I think you might well have done. Maybe they agreed with his text calling women this and wishing ruin and death on AH, his ex. Have you ever called men this or something similar? People do say these things. They do. To pretend people are this angelic people who float around on clouds playing harps all the time is not real. People do say stuff, they text stuff, they say stuff, and it's the difference between saying things and doing things that's the key, I think, here. They saw all of this in Johnny Depp. To them, he was an anti-establishment hero, the kind he so convincingly played in movies. This is projection. This is what you think people are doing. But no, this is not what they're doing. They're seeing outrageous claims by someone who is frankly appalling, and they're seeing that it shouldn't stand, generally. I'd worked on cases that had drawn a crowd before, including representing Julian Assange, but I'd never seen anything like this. Celebrity fandom and misogyny converged. Right, so now you've convinced yourself that this is what's going on. Doesn't matter what the facts are, it's now misogyny. Right, cool. I reached out to squeeze AH's hand, and surprised she didn't get poisoned by it. It was 2020, 4 years since she got domestic DV restraining order against Johnny Depp from a California judge. AH had never detailed the violence she said she suffered during her relationship with Depp in public, nor did she ever want to. Before Depp's defamation claim, AH had only told a judge in California enough detail about the violence to obtain the original restraining order back in 2016. Was this just after her extortion letter when she was demanding ownership of the 3 flats, the 3 penthouse flats, and the Land Rover? And didn't she give this restraining order on the death of Johnny Depp's mother? Wasn't that the day after the death of his mother? Yeah, she's charming. This is absolutely charming, this woman. Long before Me Too went viral. Once she got the order, she had no interest in talking about it again, really. And she'd signed a non-disclosure agreement as part of their divorce, which was paid loads of money to her, that prevented her from doing so. It was only after Me Too that Depp would sue. It was only after the op-ed article. In 2018, Depp sued The Sun over an article which had questioned J.K. Rowling's decision to cast him in the film franchise, given that AH had been granted a restraining order by a judge and Rowling's support for Me Too. Granted a restraining order by a judge and support, given that they had been granted a restraining order by a judge. Right. Johnny Depp was claiming more than $300,000 in damages, an injunction to prevent The Sun from ever reporting him as a wife beater again, because he doesn't believe it and it wasn't true, and he's fighting against it because he finds it defamatory. And he would also later sue AH in the United States, claiming $50 million in damages, which he won in that state, more than enough to bankrupt Amber. That's up to her. Her legal costs were crippling. Again, that's up to her. He had vowed to take revenge on her after she left him. No, that wasn't what it was at all. She wrote an article in the op-ed in the Washington Post, and after extorting him, as he wrote in a text message to his agent, she's begging for total global humiliation, she's going to get it. But that wasn't a vow to take revenge, that was a response to her actions. Now, thanks to the law, he was getting his way. God, this is so biased, it's crazy. But it's understandable because this is AH's lawyer, and so she's going to put this in a very bizarre way. But there you go. Following revelations about Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein, what's he got to do with anything? Sexual misconduct, the Me Too movement. I see, you're trying to conflate the Me Too movement with this, which has got nothing to do with it. Right. So the Me Too movement went viral in 2017. It's got nothing to do with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. At its core, Me Too is about survivors speaking out and finding solidarity in one another in a culture of shame and silence where survivors are kept isolated from each other. Speaking out is a powerful act. That's as well as it may be, but it's got nothing to do with this case. In a sense, the Me Too movement is a response to legal systems that do not serve women and girls, either because the laws are inadequate or because the response of the legal system to victims and survivors is flawed. Possibly true, nothing to do with this case though. Only 14% of sexual violence victims report the assault to police. Again, nothing to do with this case, and you're trying to make people believe that this is related. And even if SA and this are reported, prosecutions and convictions remain depressingly low. They do. They are very low, mostly because it's a he said, she said situation. That makes it very difficult to get convictions because you need beyond reasonable doubt. And if you've got one person that says it happened and one person says it didn't happen and there's no other witnesses, prosecutions fall apart. But And that is a terrible thing. But again, it's got nothing to do with this case. But you're trying to make up all this stuff and try and throw enough mud at the wall and hope enough of it sticks. But that's not what's going on. Again, we've got some rape statistics, which has got nothing to do with anything. Conviction rates. But something that's been happening as a reaction to the Me Too movement. Yeah, I find anything that goes in one direction usually swings back, because you can't have everyone just believing all women. You just can't have that situation. And you can't go the other way and have everyone just believing all men. It just doesn't work. Like, there has to be a centre ground. You can't just have it one way or the other. It's crazy. But anyway, something has happened as a reaction to the Me Too movement. As women have been empowered to break their silence, they've faced a different kind of silencing, the silencing of those who speak out through the law. The spike in the number of survivors speaking out has been followed by a spike in legal actions against them, and the journalists who want to report their stories in defamation, in contract, in privacy, and in breach. So what they're saying here, or what she's saying here, is there's going to be a spike in legal actions in defamation, but that's obvious. If you've got a large number of women speaking out, a large number of those cases will be passed through the legal system or the systems at work, HR and stuff, and that will make actions happen. A small number of those will be challenged by men in defamation trials. So yes, there will be a spike in the number of individual women speaking out, but there'll be a smaller spike in men challenging these claims in defamation, and that's logical and pretty much the way it should be, is it not? You can't just have everyone believe all women, because Jesus Christ, man, women could say anything about anything. So there does have to be accountability. You can't just say anything about anything, and there will be a spike of reputational sort of defamation trials. There we go. That's kind of logical to me. By far the most common legal action we've seen used against women who have spoken out or reported gender-based violence is the libel suit. Of course it is. Because it's not going to be Theft Act, is it? It's not going to be Misuse of Computers Act. If someone says something, you challenge it in a libel suit. You don't sue them for, I don't know, misappropriation of cricket bats. Of course it's libel suits. Bizarre. This woman is bizarre. It's the most obvious thing. If you make a statement about something and the person believes it to be an untrue, defamatory statement, they're going to sue you in libel, aren't they? They're not going to make a claim of, I don't know, misuse of a bicycle on the public thoroughfare, are they? Anyway, a strange woman. Defamation law allows a person to sue for damages caused to their reputation. Exactly so. If it's untrue statements. So if it's an untrue statement, you can sue and win in defamation. Blimey, I know this. As lawyers, we have seen this in our practice and watched it happen all around the world. That's, of course it is. If you've got a large number of people speaking out, there'll be a smaller number of defamation trials in response, because you can't just have unchallenged statements. As lawyers, we've seen this and watched it happen all over the world. The courts have become a battlefield where judges grapple with competing rights. Oh wow, it's the first time she's accepted that there are rights belonging to men. Jesus Christ, this is like we're making progress. A woman's right to speak out about gender-based abuse, and a man's right to a reputation, and and not to be defamed. Exactly so. There's also man's right to speak out about gender-based abuse as well, but we ignore that. We'll ignore that. For lawyers who understand media law, some of us do, it comes as no surprise that Depp chose to sue in London. So all this bit is about the London case. I don't know if we want to go into it. It's quite complicated. We may as well as we're here. The London case, with defamation law is notoriously pro-claimant. So he's the claimant. The Sun's article wasn't the first to report on the claims of assault made against him, but the actor and his lawyers chose the Sun as the defendant. I think it was because it was an egregious statement, a tabloid that they perhaps thought would be unlikely to arouse the sympathy of much of the public, or of fellow celebrities, or of Hollywood executives. This is making a wild claim, making a guess, which based on very little evidence. AH was merely a witness. This is one of the main problems with it. Asked by the Sun to give evidence to help them prove she had not lied about the abuse she'd suffered in their relationship. Soon after he sued, Johnny Depp's PR campaign kicked into gear. She had her own PR campaign group, which she fired twice as well. Soon after he sued, the Depp's PR campaign kicked into gear. GQ magazine reported he had hired crisis management firm Hawthorne, which acts for exceptionally wealthy clients who call if there's no one else to call. Its staff were wolfmen. I mean, what? Okay, these London firms, they say some crazy stuff. Fixers and public image adjustment specialists. What the hell's a wolfman when he's at home, or even when he's in the forest? In the lead up to the UK trial, there was a full-scale effort to paint AH as a liar and abuser. There was a lot of work on AH's side as well, of painting Johnny Depp in the most negative light possible, and talking to every newspaper and magazine and putting out articles all over the place, you know, especially on Twitter as well. But we're not going to mention that, are we? No, we're just going to blame Johnny Depp. We're not going to talk about anything that AH did. Cool. No, cool. Like what you're doing. The well-known tactic. Oh yeah, they're saying the well-known tactic to deny, attack, and reverse the role of victim and offender, of DARVO. She's put some acronym as if we're meant to believe that this is some well-known tactic that is always used by the evil people. And celebrity friends gave statements in support of Depp, including his ex-wife Vanessa Paradis, who said it was not the true Johnny she knew, and ex-Winona Ryder, Wino Forever, said the allegations were impossible to believe. But significantly, neither she nor Paradis appeared in the London court, which would have allowed them to be cross-examined. Who'd like that? It was later reported that Winona Ryder had hired a former US prosecutor to block the use of her testimony, but then she was to support them. Meanwhile, a sea of online trolls targeted AH. Didn't she hire loads of people like Bot Sentinel to do the same thing on Twitter? As her lawyers, a sea of online trolls targeted Amber, us as her lawyers, and the journalists reporting on the case. We were flooded with what appeared to be bot-generated emails and tweets saying that we had been associating with a criminal and an abuser. Maybe you had been. Maybe you had. It was a sophisticated campaign, well, unlike yours, which was going on at the same time. It targeted everyone who had been pictured with Amber, tweeted about Amber, or tweeted about being in an event with Amber. And not just with tweets, but with emails addressed to their workplace. Colleague after colleague forwarded me the identical tweets and emails they received. Amber and I spent 2 years gathering evidence to corroborate her allegations, photos, text messages, medical records, witness evidence. She had, in my view, this is law, this is not opinions, law. She had, in my view, which is worth nothing, far more evidence than most victims of domestic abuse. If it was in my view, you know what I mean? It's like a person's opinion has nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp's entire case was nearly struck out because of his repeated failures to disclose relevant evidence. It was only by accident that his legal firm disclosed 70,000 of Depp's personal text messages, including the now infamous text between Depp and actor Paul Bettany, joking about wanting to drown and burn AH and this, her corpse. The stage was set. He was the powerful, much-loved movie star calling her a liar. And I think he's not wrong. She was the younger woman who left him, got a restraining order, and was trying to get on with her career. She said he was violent. He denied it. Oh, that's what she said, right? That's what she said happened. Yeah. Who was to be believed? Well, not AH, that's for sure. The judge had to decide. Had the Sun published things about Depp that were true, and by extension, had Amber told the truth about his domestic violence? It was one thing for Depp and his supporters to make all kind of claims in the media, just like you were, and online, but it was another to make them in court where a judge would decide. She's talking about the UK case all the time, but she really ignores the US case, like completely ignores it. It just goes on and on and on. And we'll go through here. Finally get through these thousands of pages about the UK trial and how it's the only one that should be taken seriously, and then finally we get to the US trial. 2 years later, on the same set of facts, the same outdated arguments were run again. I thought, well, if they're the same facts, then the same arguments, surely. This time before a jury in Virginia, in the US. Johnny Depp was suing AH for an opinion piece she wrote for the Washington Post in 2018. In it, they love this bit, AH did not name Depp, no, but she wrote it in 2018, and she said that she was a victim of DV, and she was in a relationship with Johnny Depp, and she'd just broken up with him, and she'd put out a restraining order on him. So yeah, by implication, that it was about her, that it was about him. So yeah, it doesn't matter that she did not name him. Plus, she did name him, and they edited it out like 3 times. So It was clearly about him. And so why they keep mentioning this as if it's like, oh no, it was about someone else. It was about Susie Quattro or something. In it, AH did not name Johnny Depp. Oh, that's fine then. Okay, let's move on. Or any of the underlying factual allegations of violence, but wrote from experience about how women who speak out need to be supported and necessary law reform to better support survivors. Didn't she do this as part of a deal with the ACLU, insofar as if she wrote this piece and donated loads of money to the ACLU, they would employ her as an ambassador, and she could go around the world giving her speeches about how special and amazing she is. And Aquaman 2 is coming out soon. Jesus Christ. Depp had lost his defamation case in the UK, a jurisdiction that is notoriously pro-claimant. She's still going on about the UK one. It should have been more difficult for Depp to win in the US, where the burden of proof fell on him rather than on the defendant. Exactly. All she had to do was prove one single incidence, and she would have won. By rights, she should have won. Based on the evidence, yeah, exactly, where is it? And the supposedly more stringent free speech protection in the US. But after a trial streamed live on YouTube and all over the world for 6 weeks, the jury found against Amber. That's all she mentions. That's the whole trial. One sentence. It decided Amber had defamed Depp, she had lied, and she'd done so with malice. And they awarded him $10 million in damages, $5 million in punitive damages. Punitive damages for lying. Where's the word lying? Just imagine I highlighted it. There I did. The jury also found that Depp had defamed Amber. Well, sort of, through the statements of his lawyer. So the lawyer had defamed her in one of the statements. So, but yeah, okay, you can say Depp defamed her. Not really. Claiming that her allegations were a hoax. Claiming that she had deliberately set up a scene for the police to find. They said that was false. I personally believe it's not, but that's my personal belief. She was awarded $2 million. And this woman believes the outcome was absurd. Well, she would. And the consequences have been even worse than could have been imagined. Catastrophe. The icebergs have lost and collapsed, and the polar bears have died, and Amber Heard has lost. For women, and the fallout has been global. That's what I'm saying. The ice caps are melting. We're all going to die. After seeing what happened to AH, lawyer colleagues around the world have said their clients are worried about taking action against their abusers. They should be worried about making statements that are untrue, which are harmful and are defamatory. That's what they should be worried about. You should be worried about making untrue, defamatory statements. That's all. Some decided not to go ahead with their untrue, defamatory statements. Others reported that abusive partners were threatening them, saying they were an Amber. So, I mean, some of them are. I mean, not all of them, probably not even many of them, but some of them are. And no one would believe them. In the face of all this, there remain many important questions. What message does this send to women? It's not about sending messages to people. A court case is a court case based on the facts. It's not a political statement. It's not social engineering. It's just a case on those facts. But yeah, okay, let's try and... What message does all this send to women who might want to speak out about their abuse? Well, what message? It says, don't say anything that's untrue and defamatory. How many women will speak out if this is how they will be treated? Women are treated very well. They're listened to by the courts. Amber Heard had all the time in the court in which she wanted to present her case, multiple times for weeks on end, and they found that she was defamatory and lying, and they punished her. $5 million. How many more women will have watched this case and thought, I can't go through that? Well, then don't make defamatory, untrue statements. How many women now feel unable to confide in family members? What's that got to do with anything? About their experiences after hearing them ridicule Amber. Well, you're really clutching at straws here. Really clutching at straws. How many women are not capable of going to the supermarket thinking about the ridicule of Amber? It's just, you can't make stuff up. How many women are now silenced and afraid to come forward? All the ones that were making untrue defamatory statements. How many more women? How many times am I going to read? How many more women will be sued and silenced? Well, all of them who are making untrue defamatory statements. How can we make sure that the law is balanced and fair? It is. You are protected. You can make statements, but if they are untrue and defamatory, you can get sued. So there you go. And that it protects the presumption of innocence. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem with making statements and making accusations. there's a presumption of innocence, and you're making accusations, they have to be challenged. Privacy and reputation while upholding women's rights to live a free life, or life free from violence. This is always a problem. It is always a problem. But how many women have to suffer this before the cultural narrative? Oh, I love this statement. They're always trying to push it into a cultural narrative, social justice movements. And it's not, though. It's a court case about the facts. It's not a cultural narrative. It's not shifting the paradigm. It's a court case about the facts. But how many more women have to suffer this before the cultural narrative shifts away from the oldest tricks in the book, calling women liars? Some of them are. Gold diggers? Some of them are. And whores? Some of them are. Not all of them, not many of them, very few of them, but some of them are. These are the questions that we believe we need to start asking, and our lawmakers need to start debating. You have a situation where some women actually are. Very, very few. But you can't have a situation where we just believe all women at all times. It's just not possible. Because that 1 in 100, that 1 in 1,000, that 1 in 10,000 causes catastrophic damage. So it can't be done. So let me know your thoughts for this crazy article from Jennifer Robinson. Jennifer Robinson, who's very bitter and salty that she's not sitting in the studio at The View in America and people listening to her sage legal advice, and Camille Vasquez is. And Johnny Depp, what's he doing? He's producing a film. He's in La Favorite, which is renamed Jeanne de Barry. It's going to be in French. It's coming out very soon. There's more photos about it. People are talking about it. It's all looking quite good. And yeah, let me know. Okay, and I will let me know. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.